What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team career mode. This time out we're going to be at the British Grand Prix. Chris is French again, I don't know when that happened. And yeah, I'm hoping that the race is going to go well for us. It historically has. In our first season we were running in the points there before we had a DNF, and last year we got pole before we unfortunately slid down the order to, I think it was P4 or P5 in the end, but still a strong points finish for a car that was not becoming of P4 or P5, that's for sure and certain. This time out, I'm hoping to win the damn thing. It's really as simple as that. If we can get pole in a car that's meant to be the worst car on the grid, why can't we get pole and win in a car which is the 5th or 6th best car on the grid? I think we're actually 7th in the driver or the performance index at the moment. But yeah, that might be a slightly taller order than you may expect on account of the fact that the AI is somewhat improved. I don't know if you guys know this, but over every single year of a My Team career mode, the AI gets better and better and better. So they're more difficult to race with as time goes on. Or at least some of the AI gets better, some of the AI gets worse. It's like a dynamic stats thing based on sort of age and things like that, and I think maybe how well they do in races and things like that plays into it as well, maybe. But yeah, typically drivers like Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris, however good they are in your first season of your My Team career mode, they're going to be even better going forward. So they improve year on year. And also, whilst we may have the 7th best car on the grid, I think I talked about this before, I think the gap between us and the top car on the grid is now bigger than what it was when we were the worst car on the grid this time last year. So whilst we look like we're in a better position, it's way harder for us to win races and get on the podium now than it was back then. And that is evidenced by the fact that races that we got on the podium in last year, we were either not getting on the podium in or struggling in significantly, such as Miami. We got a podium last year and it was fairly clean cut. This time out there was no chance of that. Baku, we obviously had the DNF, but it wasn't looking like it was going to be a podium beforehand. So here, whilst I want the win, I think I'm going to have to work even harder for it than I would have had to have worked for it last year when we didn't get it. And we'll see whether that rings true or not. But before anything, you got to get into the first practice session, and we ended up P3, which is about as good as I would have wanted. I think I have a real shot at getting pole here for the second time. It'll be the first track that I've got pole at for the second time in my career, because I'm pretty sure I only got one pole in my entire second season, so this will be the only track that I have the potential to get a repeat pole position at. And then obviously this year I've got a few more poles at Jeddah and China, I believe, are the only two tracks that I've got pole at so far. But obviously we've picked up one more win this season at Bahrain. But yeah, it's been a bit of a dry streak in terms of wins. Our last podium was in Monaco, which isn't too long ago. It was only sort of 3 or 4 races ago. But yeah, China was the last time that we won a race, which is I think about 6 races ago at this point. So yeah, it'd be quite nice to break that streak at long last on the 11th race of the season, as we have actually reached, after this race occurs, we will have reached the official halfway point of the season and be ready to re-enter contract negotiations with, hopefully, Enzo Fittipaldi, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. We are finally going to be applying our first ultimate aerodynamic upgrade, and after some deliberation, I've decided to do something slightly risky, and I'm actually going to rush our first ultimate upgrade, because France is a track with a massive amount of high-speed corners, and if we can have an ultimate rear downforce upgrade, we are going to fly around France. If the more aero upgrades we do, the more likely we are to be incredibly competitive around France. Even if we don't have the best car on the grid, if we can have one of the best aero packages, we have a real shot at competing for the win, I reckon, at the French Grand Prix. So that's why I've decided to do that, and now we find ourselves in qualifying, and my first flying lap was a 1:27.4, nothing too special, but I'm not too disappointed with it. I think I probably didn't have to go again, but I didn't want to risk it, and we improved by about 0.6, and in the end in Q1 that puts us P2. So actually a pretty good result, all things considered. If I get P2, it won't be the end of the world. Obviously, I'm gunning for pole and the win, but I would take a P2. Enzo Fittipaldi through to Q2. Once again, he is on a good streak at the moment. I'm very happy with how he's come along with his development, and I'm more than happy to re-sign him. Just because I'm outperforming where the car is on the grid at the moment, I think Enzo Fittipaldi is performing where it should be, and that is really good to see, because I've invested a lot in his development. I always do the driver development programs, the activities between race weekends. So it's incredibly nice to see that he's getting along well. 127.5 on a used set of softs, and then we improve by 5/10 as we come up to the line, and in the end that is good enough to put us P6. Okay, so we've slid down a little bit, but the lap wasn't great, and I think we can easily do better than that. We can get into the 126s quite comfortably, I think. If these are the times that drivers are setting in Q3, I reckon we can get pole. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Fittipaldi, P11, but he does out-qualify a Red Bull. So, incredibly impressive job from him. I'm very happy with how he's done this weekend, regardless of what happens in the race. I know that his racecraft isn't quite where his pace in qualifying is, but I'm pretty happy with that. It's a 127.3, and then Leclerc comes behind us and sets a 126.2, and I remember my exact reaction when I set this lap was, I ain't beating that. Well, like when I saw Leclerc set his lap, I should say, I just said, yeah, I ain't beating that. So no pole for us, unfortunately, but we'll do what we can to get as high up the grid as we can, and as we round the last few corners, we are 7/10 to the good compared to where we were on our used set lap, and we'll see if we can get sort of maybe P3 or so. And we cross the line. It's a 126.7, I believe, and that is good enough for P2. So yeah, not bad in the end. It was a pretty fast lap, and there was no chance I was getting pole after Leclerc set that lap.
With qualifying complete, let's review our top three today. Leclerc, Robinson, and Max Verstappen. Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out.
I was actually a 126.4, not a 126.7. I don't know where I got that from. But I don't think there was 2 more tenths in that lap. I really don't. I wrung the neck of the car to even get into that position, and I think I was lucky to do that. I think Carlos Sainz has won this rivalry no matter what. I can't recoup 9 points to him in one race, even if I do outperform him. So, we've lost that one, and we will be bumping it down another difficulty point. I was kind of hoping I'd have won more than one rivalry by this point. But I guess I underestimated the rate at which the car was going to develop. So, we'll move forward. Now we're getting these aerodynamic upgrades on the car. We do have a real shot at being a competitive car once again, and we can start moving into the realm of chassis upgrades. We have to wait until we re-sign Fittipaldi, otherwise I don't think we'll be able to afford him. But then after that, we can maybe try and get one or two chassis upgrades on the car. And then, it's time for us to start the race.
Great Britain then, one of only 2 countries to have held a Grand Prix in every year of the Formula One World Championship. And that record extends further for today's Grand Prix. Straddling the border of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, the 18 corners of Silverstone Circuit form the 3.6-mile beating heart of Formula One. It's been reinvented over the years, with Turn 1 now the fast right-hander of Abbey, but the magic of racing is as strong here as it's ever been. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and Robinson completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, and Hamilton. Sainz, Ocon, Russell, and Pierre Gasly. Fittipaldi, Perez, Mick Schumacher, and Schwartzman. Albon, Tsunoda, Kevin Magnussen, and Fernando Alonso. Joe, Stroll, Lundgaard, and Nicholas Latifi. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway.
I know this is your home Grand Prix, but treat it like any other race. Let's not make any unnecessary risks.
Nope, I think I'll win it or bin it. No, I'm joking. I will probably try and take things at least a little bit safe, and we'll see if we can compete with the cars around us. Unfortunately, we have a bit of a problem. We are on medium tyres, and there is only one car around us who is also on medium tyres, and it is Max Verstappen, who will just be faster than us anyway. Yeah, I didn't realise so many cars around us were going to be starting on softs. I don't know if we would have had the tyre saving potential in the car to be able to do a soft compound strategy. I reckon these guys probably have an ultimate tyre wear upgrade or two. So yeah, we're maybe a tiny bit screwed. We'll see what we can do. We'll see if we can defend, but on less grippy tyres in a naturally slower car compared to the cars around us, we could be in real trouble here. You know, we could slide dramatically down the order as the lights come on here, and the lights go out. And yeah, it's a decent start. At least we're kind of slightly competitive with Leclerc initially, but then he gets away as you would expect. But we've held P2 to begin with, so that's at least something. And maybe the cars trying to get through Verstappen on the soft compound tyres will hold him up and allow me to find a route of escape to set my sights on P2 in this race. P1, in case you're wondering, already got away from me. Leclerc is just going to steam away up the road. There's no chance I'm getting this back unless there's a safety car later in the race. So yeah, kiss goodbye to my dreams of winning my home race, but that's okay. We can move on from that and just try and consolidate a podium finish, maybe in P2, and try not to lose too many points to the cars around us in the Drivers' Championship. We now come through Copse Corner, and that is how a British and Dutch driver are supposed to take Copse Corner, just in case anyone is watching. And now we move through Maggots and Beckett's, and we are already kind of under pressure from Verstappen. He's caught right back up to us. He's within 2/10, and I'm sure that he will be pressuring us as we move towards the end of the lap and into lap 2. I really think that we are going to be in defense hell here, if I'm honest. These are, quite frankly, my least favourite types of Grand Prix, because they are ones where you qualify well and then you find yourself having to defend from the cars behind you for the entire race. Just once, I would like it if my qualifying pace was reflective of my race pace, and I might actually be able to slightly compete with the cars around me come race day, maybe make some overtakes rather than having to defend from some overtakes. But the problem with being in a slightly poor car and qualifying way up the order every single time is that you just find yourself defending all the time, lap after lap after lap, and that is what this race is most likely going to turn into. So yeah, hopefully once we develop the car a little bit, we can perhaps find ourselves maybe in a position where we can pull off some overtakes. Once we win some rivalries as well and bump the difficulty up, I'm sure that will ring true as well. But for now, we're kind of riding the struggle bus when it comes to the race itself. Schwartzman is out of the Grand Prix by the looks of things, and we should take a look at how that happened. There he is in the Alfa Romeo there, closing up on the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly, number 10. And you see as he rounds Brooklands, every corner I don't know the name of is Brooklands, just in case you're wondering. Yeah, he starts slowing down a bit, and he's going to pull off the circuit here, and that is going to be the end of his race. So unfortunate for Schwartzman, who got his first Formula 1 points last time out in Canada after a slightly chaotic end to the race. He ended up bringing it home P6, which was a fantastic result for him and for the team. And now we are being overtaken by Verstappen. I wanted to hang it around the outside of him. The tyres just don't have the grip in them for that. I thought about doing the switchback on him, but he had my number on that one as well. So yeah, I think that's going to be the loss of P2 for us. And now as we move on to lap 4, we are under pressure from Lando Norris, our championship rival, quote unquote. I say quote unquote because we're now so far afield of him. I actually don't think it's possible. We could win every race, and still it's probably unlikely. We actually make a bit of contact there as we come through Maggots and Beckett's, but it's not enough to keep him at bay, and he moves through. He will have the DRS here as well, because the DRS detection point was way back when I was still ahead of him, and so That is another position probably lost for us. I think we're going to try and have a look up the inside here, but we just don't quite have enough room. He's on grippier tyres, and that is all he needed in order to stay ahead in this race, for now at least. So that moves us down to P4, and we've slid off the podium, but maybe at least we can consolidate P4. And as we come onto lap 8 now, you'll see that we're still in P4, and yeah, we see the first of the soft compound runners coming into the pits, including Ocon there, and Leclerc's coming in, and a few others. I think Ricardo also coming in. So yeah, quite a few people coming in to fit the mediums to the end. I believe we'll be going medium hard, and it's going to be quite a challenge, I think, for us to compete with the cars around us. So we'll see what we can do as we come on to lap 9, moving into lap 10. Norris, Sainz, Russell, all of the other soft compound runners are now coming in for their medium compound tyres, and yeah, that's pretty much the end of the pit stop phase for the soft compound runners. And in a few laps' time, the medium runners, which includes Verstappen, myself, my teammate Fittipaldi, all of us will be boxing to fit hards to the end of the Grand Prix. Now here we are on lap 12, doing exactly what I was just describing. And we come in and we are going to be fitting the hard compound tyres. Verstappen has stayed out for another lap. I honestly think that's good for him, but he's so far afield of us that it doesn't make a difference too much in the end anyway. Gasly's in. Obviously Fittipaldi will be staying out because he doesn't want to double stack with me. I think that would end up holding him up. He was probably far enough afield to the point that a double stack wouldn't make too much of a difference, but I don't blame the team for not wanting to run that risk. Double stacks are very stressful, and if they're not necessary, then they shouldn't be done. We can do 23 laps to the end here, so it's safe to say the tyres are still going to be in pretty good nick by the end. Maybe we can be slightly more competitive as we move to the end of the Grand Prix in the second stint. We've seen it happen before, maybe we can see it happen again, but for now we've got to get some heat into these tyres, and while we do that we are under pressure from both Sainz and Ocon behind us, so it is going to be incredibly difficult to keep them behind as I'm warming up my tyres. They are on fresher, warmer, better, grippier tyres than I am, and they're in faster cars. So yeah, this was pretty much a foregone conclusion. I'm trying to do everything I can to race with Sainz here as we go a bit wheel to wheel through these flowing left-handers and right-handers. Of one of them definitely is Brooklands. I don't know what the other one is. And eventually he does get ahead. Ocon here is now going to have a go at me as we move into Copse, and I'm just about going to stay ahead. I wonder if he's going to try and attack me again into Maggots and Beckett's. That is not going to end well. There is not room for two cars to go through Maggots and Beckett's at high speed. One of you is going to have to back out or there will be a crash. And now we move on to the Hangar Straight, I'm going to say it's called, and Ocon will have the DRS here. So I think it's pretty likely that he'll overtake. Although actually we still were within Sainz's DRS range, and that has allowed us to at least stay competitive here. But Ocon dives up the inside, and we lose yet another position. But it's not over yet, because we're going to attack him into the final section of corners towards the end of the lap. And as we come round to end lap 13, we have regained the position on Ocon, and we find ourselves in P8 at the time. We move on to lap 20 now, and we are in P5. But we are under attack from Sergio Perez, who has moved up into P5 and moved us down to P6. But yeah, hopefully we can stay with him. Mark encouraging us to do exactly that. And as we come on to lap 21, as we move to the end of the Lewis Hamilton straight, we dive right up the inside at Brooklands, quote unquote, and we move back into P5. I kind of like this meme of calling every corner I don't know the name of Brooklands, but I probably should learn the names of these corners at some point if I want to be a serious YouTuber who is racing here every season. So yeah, we've moved back into lap 21. We are in lap 21, but we've moved back into P5 on lap 21, and we'll be under pressure from Perez here now. Probably for the rest of the Grand Prix, I imagine. So we'll see if we can keep him behind for the rest of the Grand Prix. I was very stressed out at this point in the race for sure, because I was kind of thinking to myself, great, we're going to be in defense hell for the rest of the race. But you know, maybe my one saving grace when it comes to this defense hell I'm talking about is when you have cars behind you that are battling with one another for the position behind you. If there are two cars or more behind you, there is a chance that they will be able to hold each other up. So being stuck in a train is way better than being stuck with one car trying to overtake you when you know that they're faster than you. And that was what gave me a bit of a route of escape until lap 26 when Perez closed back up to me. But now we are locked in a fierce battle. I am convinced that the AI are coded to be a bit more aggressive on the final lap, because I have so many final lap battles at the moment, it's ridiculous. And it's one of those things that looks like it's scripted, but I swear it isn't, because I just race at my full pace at all times, basically. And I find that the AI always close me down on the final lap, and I always have, you know, consistent wheel-to-wheel aggressive battles with the car behind me in pretty much every race where I've had someone close behind me throughout, you know, the final few laps. They've always gone wheel to wheel with me in the final lap. Here, we're going to go through Maggots and Beckett's and we're going to see who stays ahead. We actually do manage to go wheel to wheel for a little bit there, but eventually Perez has to back out. Leclerc wins the Grand Prix, unsurprisingly. He's led pretty much every lap apart from when he came into the pits. And we're going to have one more place to defend from Perez here as we come up to the final sequence of corners. Ocon's trying to come up our inside here as we go 3 wide through Brooklands. And eventually we do manage to somehow, despite being in the middle, hold on to that position. And now it's just going to be a drag race to the line. Perez is closing me down, but it's not going to be quickly enough. And we hold on to P5 in that thrilling finish to the Grand Prix. It's not the result I wanted, but at least we grab all of our sponsor bonuses. That will be 750 grand in the bank for us, and it's not something you can complain about when you make that much money on a race weekend.
Great effort there from Ferrari to take the victory today. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on track was: speed. I know it sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Yes, we did, and yes, we
are,
did.
A team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari.
Well, Carlos Sainz finds himself on the podium as well, and Lando Norris. So it's basically the 3 people I would least want to finish on a podium have all finished on it. But the Sainz thing doesn't really matter at this point anyway. So yeah, it's not the end of the world with him. But we slowly see Norris and Leclerc disappear up the road in the drivers' standings, and this championship really is going to be too difficult for me to get back into now, I reckon.
Our championship leader is still sat at the top of the standings, but their rivals have made up some solid ground today. Well, after an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
I think it has to be Fernando Alonso. He got the strategy spot on and consistently had the pace to come through as well.
Let's move on to the constructors. Ferrari continue to extend the gap at the top of the table. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
So, Norris is 32 points clear of Leclerc at the top of the championship, and I'm 51 points adrift of him as well. So, this is Norris's championship to bottle, I would say, as we are at the halfway point of the season, and he has that strong of a lead. If he somehow loses this, that is going to be, yeah, one of the most remarkable bottle jobs in the history of Formula One, I would say, actually. He's got such an advantage. He can suffer a DNF. He can suffer a DNF in a sprint weekend, and he will still probably hold on to that championship lead, I imagine. Which, speaking of sprint weekends, that is the next race, is a sprint weekend at Austria. So it will be exciting to see if we can gain a few extra points than we usually would there. Perhaps we can sneak into the points in the sprint like we did last year, and then maybe our car won't break down in the actual Grand Prix, and we can maybe grab some extra points in that. Maybe a P6 or something like that would be ideal. As I've said, I'm not really worried about fighting for the championship anymore, but it's always nice to grab some extra points for whatever position in the championship you are fighting for, whether that be P3, P5, whatever. We're fighting for P5 in the constructors, I would say. Maybe we might be able to get back into the P4 fight if Red Bull really look as uncompetitive as they've looked this season. there might be a chance that we can maybe look at a P4, but we really would need Enzo to start banging in some strong performances if we want that to happen. I can't beat Red Bull by myself, not in this thing. So yeah, I think P4 is going to be the best we're looking at. And then driver standings wise, you know, again P3, P4 I think is what we'll probably be looking at, unless we suddenly massively turn things around in the later half of the season. We do have some good races coming up for us. Obviously not so much Austria. Britain was one that I was hoping would go better. France, if we can get those aerodynamic upgrades onto the car, I think that has the potential to be a fantastic race for us. Then we have Belgium, which will probably go very well. It's gone very well historically. Zandvoort obviously was where I got my first win, so I think that could go pretty well. Monza, I don't think that one's going to go very well for us. But then, you know, Japan went quite well last season. We've also got Singapore won't go well, I don't think. We've got the sort of the Gulf races like the UAE and actually that's it, right? There's no Qatar in the standings or in the calendar at this point, but there's some other races coming up. The Americas races like the USA and Brazil I think could go quite well a little bit later in the season, so we'll have to wait and see, I guess, how those ones go, and maybe there's a way we can battle back into this championship, but at the moment I'd just like to consolidate where we are in the championship. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.